Hello everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, we're diving into another intense and emotional chapter. The moment Tu Tien wakes up after the terrible accident, and the truth behind Huang and Hai's dark plan finally comes to light. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episodes, and please tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts in the comments. Your words mean so much to us and truly keep this story alive. The soft morning light filtered through the hospital blinds, painting pale stripes across the room. Tu Tien slowly opened her eyes, her breath shallow, her leg still wrapped tightly in white bandages. The world felt hazy, the faint scent of antiseptic, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor, the distant sound of footsteps in the corridor. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then, the pain returned, sharp, electric, and the memories rushed back. The roar of the engine, the blinding sunlight, the crash. She turned her head slightly and saw Jack asleep beside her, his head resting on his folded arms at the edge of her bed. His hair was tousled, dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hand still clutched hers as if afraid she might disappear if he let go. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Jack." He stirred instantly, lifting his head. When their eyes met, his expression softened, relief washing over him. "You're awake." Tu Tien tried to smile. "What happened to me?" "You were hit by a car," Jack said quietly. "But you're safe now." His voice trembled on the last word. "I promise, I won't let anything happen to you again." Jiang entered at that moment, holding a thermos of warm soup. Her face lit up at the sight of Tu Tien's open eyes. "You scared us, you know that? I thought I'd lose you." Tu Tien managed a small nod. "I remember the sound. Someone was watching me. It didn't feel like an accident." Jiang exchanged a glance with Jack, then hesitated. "Tu Tien, there's something you need to see." Jack unlocked his phone and handed it to her. On the screen was a blurry photo, the aftermath of the crash. The edge of a silver motorbike, a faint reflection of a woman's face caught in the car window. The details were unclear, but Jiang's voice was certain when she said, "I took this right after you fell. That woman, it's Huang." Tu Tien froze. Her breath hitched, her heart thundering in disbelief. "Huang?" she whispered. "No, she wouldn't." Jack's jaw tightened. "She was my secretary. I trusted her. And this is what she did." His voice hardened, his anger trembling beneath the surface. "Because of jealousy?" Jiang's expression darkened. "It looks like she wasn't alone either. I saw someone else on a motorbike near the scene. The license plate was half visible. I gave both details to the police." Jack nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'm sending this to my friend at the station. They'll find out who was involved." He paused, voice low but resolute. "If it was Huang, I'll make sure she answers for it." Tu Tien looked at him, the fire in his eyes, the pain beneath it, and felt a wave of gratitude and fear all at once. "Jack, don't get yourself into trouble because of me." He turned to her, his voice softer now. "This isn't just about you getting hurt. It's about someone thinking they can destroy what we've built, our peace, our love, and walk away." The room fell silent. Only the heart monitor's steady beeping filled the air. 2 days later, word of the police investigation began to spread through the city. The photo Jiang had taken, now enhanced, clearly showed Huang's profile reflected in the car's glass, and the motorbike nearby was traced to Hai. Huang sat in her apartment, staring blankly at the news on her phone. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the report. Police are reviewing security footage related to the hit-and-run involving Tu Tien. Evidence includes a captured photo and vehicle details. Hai paced the floor behind her, his tone sharp. "You said no one saw us." Huang turned, her face pale. "She wasn't supposed to survive. I made sure." She stopped, catching herself, her words trembling. "You made sure?" Hai snapped. "You mean we made sure? Don't try to throw me under the bus now that the cops are sniffing around." Huang's hands shook as she poured herself a drink, spilling some on the table. "They won't find proof. The photo's blurry. It could be anyone." "Maybe," Hai said grimly, "but they already have the bike's plate number. Mine." Huang froze. "You didn't change it?" He glared at her. "You said there was no need." The room filled with tense silence. Outside, thunder rumbled as if the sky itself disapproved. Huang gripped the edge of the counter, her breathing uneven. "We'll say you lent the bike to someone. We'll deny everything." Hai laughed bitterly. "You really think the police will buy that? Maybe you should start preparing for the worst." Her eyes flashed. "If you talk, if you say anything, I'll make sure you regret it." He smirked. "You've already made me regret everything." At the hospital, Jack returned from the police station that evening. The exhaustion on his face was clear, but his eyes burned with a quiet determination. Tu Tien sat up in bed, propped against the pillows, a book unopened in her lap. "They're investigating," he said, sitting beside her. "They've confirmed the motorbike belongs to someone connected to Huang. It's just a matter of time before they make arrests." Tu Tien's heart tightened. "I never thought she'd go that far. She was kind to me once. She brought me tea every morning at the office." Jack's expression softened, though pain flickered in his gaze. Jealousy blinds people. She saw kindness as weakness. Jiang entered quietly, holding a small basket of fruit. "The officer I spoke with said they've recovered part of a broken side mirror from the scene. It matches the make of Huang's car." Tu Tien lowered her eyes. "So it's really her?" Jack nodded slowly. "It's her." The truth hung between them, heavy and undeniable. Tu Tien's fingers twisted in the bedsheet. "Jack, promise me you won't let anger consume you. Justice will come, but don't lose yourself to it." He took her hand gently. "You're the one who reminds me who I am," he said. "As long as you're here, I won't lose myself." For a long moment, they just sat there in silence, her hand in his, the world outside fading away. Later that night, rain lashed against the windows. In her apartment across town, Huang sat alone on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. Dozens of missed calls from Hai blinked on the screen. She ignored them. Her thoughts were a storm, flashes of guilt, fear, and denial colliding all at once. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered to herself. "I just wanted her gone. Not like this." But it was too late. The choices she had made were now echoing back, louder, sharper, unstoppable. At the hospital, the rain's rhythm lulled Tu Tien towards sleep. Jack sat beside her, watching the gentle rise and fall of her breath. The storm outside matched the one in his heart, fierce yet cleansing. He whispered softly, "It's not over yet, but I'll be ready." Because somewhere beyond the walls of the quiet hospital, justice was already on its way, and with it, the reckoning that none of them could escape. The night deepened. Thunder rolled in the distance, and in that fragile calm between lightning and truth, One question lingered in the dark. When justice finally arrives, will it heal their wounds or tear open scars too deep to mend? The next morning broke gray and silent. Rain still clung to the city like a shroud, and the streets glistened with the residue of last night's storm. Inside the hospital, the air was tense, the calm before the inevitable breaking point. Tu Tien was awake early, watching the rain trace paths down the window pane. Her legs still throbbed with pain, but what hurt more was the thought of betrayal. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Huang's face, the faint smile, the friendly greetings, the quiet loyalty that had all been a mask. Jack entered the room, his expression grave but steady. He carried a small paper bag in one hand, breakfast, and a folder in the other. "You're up early," he said softly, trying to sound casual. She smiled faintly. "Couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts." He set the bag on the table, then took a deep breath. "The police called me this morning." Tu Tien's fingers tightened around the blanket. "What did they say?" "They found the motorbike," Jack said. "Abandoned behind a warehouse near the old industrial road. Same model, same plate. The fingerprints match Hai." Tu Tien's breath caught. "Then, it's true?" Jack nodded. "They're questioning him now. He's not talking yet, but it's only a matter of time." Jiang entered just as he spoke, carrying a small bouquet of wildflowers. "I heard," she said quietly. "It's spreading fast. People at the office are whispering. They all know Huang's involved." Tu Tien's heart sank. "She'll deny it." "She already has," Jack replied grimly. "I got a message from HR. She's claiming it was all a setup, that someone's trying to ruin her career." Jiang sighed, setting the flowers beside the bed. "Even now, she's trying to twist the truth." Jack's jaw tightened. "Let her. The evidence will speak louder than her lies." Tu Tien looked up at him, her eyes gentle but filled with worry. "Don't let hatred consume you, Jack. Promise me." He hesitated, then reached for her hand. "It's not hate," he said quietly. "It's justice." Across the city, in a gray interrogation room, Hai sat slouched in a chair, staring at the table. The officer across from him flipped through a folder filled with photos. The scene of the crash, the motorbike, the car, the reflection of Huang's face in the window. Hai smirked. "That picture's blurry. Could be anyone." The officer didn't react. "We found your fingerprints on the bike, and your neighbor saw you leaving that afternoon." He shrugged. "I lend that bike to friends. Maybe they took it." The officer leaned forward. "And the dashcam footage from a nearby store? It caught your jacket, your helmet, your build. You really want to keep lying?" Hai's smirk faltered. "You've got nothing on Huang." The officer raised an eyebrow. "So you admit she's involved?" Silence. Hai's eyes darted away, his jaw flexing. "I didn't say that." "Maybe you didn't have to." The officer closed the folder slowly. "But she did. She's already talking." That got his attention. "What?" "She's saying you acted alone, that you were obsessed with her, that you thought hurting Tu Tien would make her happy." Hai's face darkened. "That liar!" He stopped, too late. The officer leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "So it was about Tu Tien." Hai slammed a fist on the table. "Huang planned it. She begged me to do it. She said she'd pay me, that Jack had humiliated her. She wanted revenge." The officer's voice stayed calm. "Then you'd better start telling us everything." Hai's breath came out heavy, his eyes wild. "You don't understand. She was desperate. said she loved him, said that woman, Tu Tien, had stolen her future. She swore she'd rather die than see them together. The officer took notes silently. Outside the interrogation room, another officer watched through the glass wall, holding a photo of Huang, her confident smile now seeming almost cruel. That afternoon, Huang's world collapsed. The police arrived at her apartment just as she was packing her bags. "Ms. Huang," one of the officers said firmly, "you're under arrest for conspiracy and attempted murder." Her hands trembled. There must be a mistake. They showed her the warrant, the photos, the testimony. Each one struck like a hammer blow. Her voice cracked. "No, I didn't mean to hurt her. It wasn't supposed to go that far." But the officers said nothing as they led her out. Neighbors watched silently from their doors, their faces unreadable. Huang's mind spun in chaos. It wasn't supposed to end like this. He was supposed to understand. He was supposed to come back to me. But now, everything she had, her job, her dignity, her illusions, was gone. At the hospital, Jack received the call just before sunset. "They've arrested both of them," the officer confirmed. Hai confessed. He said Huang ordered it. She'll be charged. Jack stood by the window, the golden light reflecting off his tired face. "Thank you," he said quietly. When he hung up, Tu Tien looked up from her bed. "Is it over?" Jack turned to her, his expression a mix of exhaustion and bittersweet relief. "They confessed." Jiang let out a shaky sigh. "Finally." Tu Tien's eyes glistened, though her smile was soft. "Justice came, but it still hurts." Jack nodded slowly. "I know." He sat beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "She betrayed everything I believed in. But I don't want that to be what defines us." Tu Tien reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. "Then let's not let it. Let this be the end of the storm." Later that night, the three of them, Jack, Tu Tien, and Jiang, sat together in quiet companionship. The rain had stopped, replaced by the faint hum of cicadas outside the open window. Jiang smiled gently. "You know, after everything, maybe this was fate's way of testing love." Jack chuckled faintly. "Then I'd say we passed. Barely." Tu Tien laughed softly, the sound light but fragile. "We're still standing. That's what matters." She looked out the window where the city lights flickered like distant stars. The air smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. Jack followed her gaze. "Once your leg heals, I'll take you back to the farm. We'll rebuild the fence, plant new trees, maybe start over." Tu Tien smiled. "A new chapter." He nodded. "One without shadows." But far away, in the dim confines of a prison cell, Huang sat motionless. The walls were gray, the air heavy. Her reflection stared back from the small metal mirror. Hollow eyes, trembling lips. A single tear slid down her cheek. "I loved you, Jack," she whispered. "I just wanted to be seen." Her words dissolved into the darkness. At the same time, back at the hospital, Tu Tien drifted towards sleep. Jack sat beside her, watching the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. The storm outside had passed, but in his heart lingered a quiet ache, not of anger, but of lessons learned the hard way. He whispered, "You once said kindness is strength. Maybe forgiveness is too." Outside, the night stretched calm and endless. Somewhere in that quiet, hope began to bloom again, fragile but real. Because even after betrayal, even after pain, love still found a way to rise, just as the dawn always follows the darkest night.